Welcome to Nicolay, a digital history experiment that uses artificial intelligence to explore the speeches of Abraham Lincoln. My name is Daniel Hutchinson. John George Nicolay was a German-born American author and diplomat who served as the private secretary to U.S. President Abraham Lincoln. Nicolay's first connection to Lincoln began as he grew up in Illinois, working as an editor for the Pike County Free Press and later an assistant to the Republican Secretary of State. It was in this capacity that Nicolay met Abraham Lincoln and became a devoted supporter. In 1861, Lincoln appointed Nicolay as his private secretary in his first official act of his new administration. Nicolay served until Lincoln's death in 1865. And in the years that followed, Nicolay served in positions as varied as the United States Consul at Paris and the Marshal of the U.S. Supreme Court. In the years after the Civil War, Nicolay collaborated with his fellow Lincoln secretary, John Hay, to compose a 10-volume biography of Abraham Lincoln's life. Their substantial research played an important role in the future scholarship of the life and times of our 16th president. This app has been named Nicolay to honor his role in documenting and preserving the words and legacy of Abraham Lincoln for future generations. Nicolay analyzes 15 of Lincoln's most important speeches. In total, these speeches approximate some 96,000 words or some 300 pages of text. This app allows users to navigate a substantial collection of Lincoln's most important ideas, his most moving rhetoric, and some of the most tumultuous times in our nation's history. To prepare Lincoln's speeches for computational analysis, each speech was broken down into smaller chunks of several paragraphs to allow for analysis by large language models, the types of AIs used in this application. After each speech was broken up into chunks, each chunk then was analyzed by ChatGPT. ChatGPT provided brief summaries of each text chunk and extracted keywords of some of the notable individuals, places, and ideas contained within that text chunk. This type of data structure facilitates enhanced searchability over the texts and analysis of Lincoln's speeches. Nicolay's interface allows users two ways to explore Abraham Lincoln's speeches: semantic search and Ask Nicolay. Semantic search allows users to ask questions in natural language, and through this process, the three most semantically similar parts of Lincoln's speeches will be returned. Ask Nicolay allows users to pose a question to large language models about Lincoln's speeches, and after a process of analysis, Ask Nicolay will provide an answer to the user question supported by a quotation from one of Lincoln's speeches. Nicolay offers two large language model options for users to explore Abraham Lincoln's speeches. ChatGPT offers a relatively fast and affordable model for more rapid analysis of Lincoln's speeches, but at the cost of less accurate results. GPT-4, in contrast, offers greater accuracy and analytical insight, but at the cost of greater time and greater expense for running the model. Users may wish to experiment with both models in order to see the varying performance of these different systems over historic texts. Now that we've explored Nicolay and its interface, let's now probe deeper into how AI models can be used to explore the speeches of Abraham Lincoln. Let's begin our exploration first with semantic search. Semantic search is a search method that helps users find related content in Lincoln's speeches by analyzing the meaning behind their queries, rather than just looking at exact keyword matches. This method uses cosine similarity, which measures how closely the meaning of words and phrases are related. Imagine as words as points in space. Semantically similar words are closer together, while unrelated words are further apart. To achieve this type of spatial representation of text, Lincoln's speeches are converted into mathematical representations called vectors. These vectors are placed into a high-dimensional space, where their positions reflect the relationships between the words' meanings. Cosine similarity then helps identify these connections. This approach allows users to quickly find related content to their questions and sometimes uncover subtle connections between the texts, even if the wording is different. Let's see an example of semantic search at play using Nicolay. When asking Nicolay the question, "How did Lincoln describe the importance of democracy?" semantic search will return these three texts as the most semantically similar. Nicolay will also record the semantic similarity score for each text. The semantic similarity score is a measure of how closely the meaning of the user's query aligns with the content of Lincoln's speeches. Higher scores indicate a closer match in meaning, but it's important to note that sometimes high similarity doesn't always guarantee relevance to the user's query. Here is one of the semantically similar texts identified by Nicolay, Lincoln's first annual message to Congress in December 1861. Here we see the keyword extraction and summary produced by ChatGPT, and users will also be provided the full text of this particular segment of Lincoln's speech. Highlighted in yellow, we can see the segment of the text most directly relevant to the user question. Semantic search also plays a key role in the other method for exploring the speeches of Abraham Lincoln, Ask Nicolay. Ask Nicolay uses prompt engineering and prompt chaining to facilitate the analysis of Lincoln's speeches using large language models. The process starts with a user question, and semantic search returning the top three texts from the corpus of Lincoln's speeches. Each text is then checked by the large language model for relevancy, and each relevant text is then forwarded on to the final step of the process, where answers are formulated and quotes from Lincoln's speeches are extracted. Let's examine this process in more depth by examining Step 2, the relevancy check. Ask Nicolay's relevancy check depends on two methods of what is known as prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is a set of techniques that helps guide a large language model to produce outputs desired by the user. In the first step of the relevancy check, one of these prompt engineering methods is used, chain of thought reasoning. Here, the large language model is provided with a detailed set of instructions to determine the relevancy of a text by using a step-by-step method. Breaking down complex tasks in such a manner can help the model generate more relevant and contextually accurate responses. After the set of instructions, then the model is provided with 3 example tasks that show the model how to determine relevancy for a text. This approach is called few-shot prompting, and using this technique, just a few examples can inform the large language model to how to generalize this task to new texts. After these instructions and example tasks, then the model is given the semantically similar texts determined in Step 1. And from here, the model determines each text's particular relevancy to the user question. If the text is found to be relevant, it is then passed on to the next step in the analytical process. Let's revisit our original question and example text to see the relevancy check in action. The AI model follows the chain of thought prompting to provide keywords from the text relevant to the user's question, as well as determining the text relevancy and offering an explanation for its reasoning. This approach not only measures the text's relevancy, but also allows users to review the model's performance and accuracy. Those texts which have been deemed relevant by the AI model in Step 2 are then passed on to Step 3, in which the AI model poses an answer to the user question supported by a quote from one of Abraham Lincoln's speeches. In the final step of Ask Nicolay, the AI model is given the relevant texts from Step 2 and asked to provide an answer to the user question and a quotation from the text that supports that answer. This is achieved using the same approach as in step 2, with a prompt written to reflect chain of thought reasoning, and few-shot prompting with 2 example tasks to provide in-context learning for the large language model. Using this approach, Ask Nikolai provides answers containing a citation and a quotation from the selected speech of Abraham Lincoln, offering users a textually grounded response for their query. Let's now examine Ask Nikolai's final answer to our original question with the original text. How did Lincoln describe the importance of democracy? Using his first annual message to Congress from 1861. Here in this answer, generated by the model, we see an explanation which includes a supporting quotation as well as a citation for the quote. The model's output demonstrates its ability to effectively synthesize information from the text to answer the user question, providing a cohesive and textually supported answer to the user's question. While Nikolai offers a variety of novel approaches to exploring historical sources, like every approach, there are strengths and weaknesses that have to be weighed as a methodology for historical exploration. Among the opportunities offered by approaches like Nikolai are interactive forms of search over large text collections using natural language queries. This provides opportunities for users of every stripe to access large amounts of historical information in very simple ways. The responses Nikolai offers also provides the possibility of AI-generated answers rooted in historical source material, hopefully providing accurate and factually grounded responses based upon the original texts. Such approaches also facilitate automated data extraction and analysis, streamlining opportunities for research and enabling faster discovery of relevant information. This approach also permits for the combination of additional historical sources to create even more comprehensive and nuanced analyses of primary source materials. Yet these opportunities must be weighed carefully against the very real limits of this technology. Among the most significant of the limits of this approach is the tendency of AI models towards hallucination, or inaccurate answers generated by the model which appear convincing and real. Any AI analysis should be paired with human review of the original text to ensure accuracy and trustworthiness. Another limitation regards the existing technical abilities of AI models. The 2 models used in Nikolai, ChatGPT and GPT-4, offer, at least in the spring of 2023, the cutting edge of large language model technology. However, even in these advanced models, there are significant costs in terms of time and expense. Another potential limitation regards the use of semantic search. While semantic search is an effective search method for historical documents, there are other search approaches which may be more appropriate for particular situations or particular source types. Historians using these techniques should weigh the variety of different search methods that are available to use for large language models. The final limit to this approach concerns the use of prompt engineering and the context windows or context length of large language models. Prompt engineering can work on models in certain circumstances, but if the models are changed or updated, old prompts may no longer be useful or effective in generating the same response. Continual fine-tuning of prompts is a necessary component for evaluating the effectiveness of these models over time. Likewise, large language models have a certain limit of the amount of text that they can read, review, and analyze. This limit, known as the context length, has to be carefully weighed in any approach to using historical sources for analysis, as the structure of how you put those sources together determines the ability of the large language model to analyze the texts. This project relies on The Speeches of Abraham Lincoln, produced and curated by the Miller Center at the University of Virginia. Their corpus of presidential speeches numbers among one of the most important primary source materials for studying American history. And my thanks to the Miller Center for preserving and maintaining this collection. Nikolai was programmed using Python and the Python libraries Streamlit and LangChain for displaying and processing these forms of data analysis. The AI models used to power Nikolai include the Ada text embedding model from OpenAI and OpenAI's large language models ChatGPT and GPT-4. The code used in Nikolai, as well as the data and prompts for this project, are available on the project's GitHub page. I want to thank you for your time and attention to this explanation of Nikolai, and I want to thank the team at Honest Abe's Information Emporium for the opportunity to share this research. I encourage you to take a deep dive into the rich historical resource that is the speeches of Abraham Lincoln and discover for yourself the powerful words and ideas that shaped the nation.